This is the episode 11 and today we are covering design system in Scene UI design and starting with a very basic questions like what is design system? So design system is simply the collection of components or set of rules or properties or effects. Components like buttons, input fields or search bar, and effects like drop shadow, inner shadow or any blur effect or any other properties like the grid system you are using or any other styles you have like the color palette, your whole typography system, and all that stuff is included in the design system. Okay, now the question is why we need design system. We can design the UI directly, that is also an option. Now we use design system mainly for three reasons. Like first one is the consistency, like throughout the application your design will look consistent. Like if you pick any component from any one of the screens like the buttons, then the button on the both screen will look the same, like they will have the same height and text properties and all other main properties. Like the hover effect on the first screen will be same as the hover effect on the second screen if we are using a same component. And design system also helps us to have consistency in the development, like the actual product, because if you build things randomly or without design system, then it will be very hard for the developer to develop that actual thing, and your actual app and website will look very different from your design. So it's very important that you use a design system. And next thing is you will be able to focus on big things. Like if you're designing a screen, then you will be able to focus on the important parts, like where you should place the elements. You will not stuck on small things like what should be the color of the button or what should be the font size or what drop shadow I should use. And your team will be able to discuss on better things like how you should place things, how should be the structure of the screen, how should the user flow and all other stuff. Because if your basic things are not set it up like components, typography or any other basic thing, then your team will not be able to focus on better things. You will fight over small things like what should be the color of button, what should be the font size, what font should we use. So if you set up a design system before starting a project, it will be very easy for your team to work together in a very collaborative manner, and you will be able to build a better product or application or website. Okay, and next we can save time and work faster. Obviously if your basic things are set it up, you can design screens very faster. You don't have to design every time. Like if you're designing a screen and that screen requires a button, so you don't have to design the button from scratch. You can pick that from your design system library. Okay, it will be very easy and faster for you and both the developers, because developers work the same way. They first build a component. Like if they are developing a screen, they will not go like first I will design or develop the button, then I will develop the search bar. First they build individual components. Like they will take a button, like they will design or develop all the states of that button, then they will import that component into the screens whenever they are using or whenever that thing is required. And same thing happens for all other elements like color, typography and all other elements, and we try to do the same thing in designing. So it's very easy and time saving for the developer team. Okay, now let's look at some of the examples of a design system. Like I have a very simplified version of design system, like a mini design system that will help you a lot as a beginner. And this is just a starter design system. The actual design systems are very big, like there is no end to detail how much details you can put in a design system. Like the actual design system which big companies uses have no end to the details. They have everything written on that design system documentation. I will show you those things in just a minute, but let me show you first a mini design system. Like this is the starter design system. You can copy that thing from Figma community, link is in the description. If you just look at, like we have very basic color palette here, like this is the pink color, purple color, then we have the grays, then we have typography set it up, like this is the font size we have. Then if you just look at the button, we have different states of button. Like this is the default state. If you just look at it, and you can see that thing here, like this is the primary button and the states is default. And if you just click on any other element, you will be able to see that this is the hover state and this is the disable state. Okay, then we have alternate of the primary button. Okay, then we have the secondary button with the outline one. Okay, and we have 3 state of that button also. So it will be very easy for you and the developer when you are building any screen to pick these things directly from here. And when we are using any design system, we don't copy paste stuff from Figma. Like if I just copy a button from this screen and I will go to my design screen and paste here, there is an alternate and a faster way to do this thing. I will show you that thing at the end of the video. Okay, now let's look at the design system checklist. These are the must include things you should not ignore. Okay, first of all we have the styles. Like in styles you should always have a color palette, your whole color palette set it up. Then we have the typography system, then we have the grid system and the effects. Now in effects we have drop shadows or inner shadow or any blur effect if you are going to use that thing in any of the layer. And I have already covered all these properties in my free UI design course. The whole playlist link is in the description. You can go and check that. First of all, I have covered about colors in UI design. Then I have 2 videos dedicated to grid system. Like first of all we have the pixel grid system, and then we have the website grid system like the column grid system. Okay, then we have everything about typography. Then we have some important components like buttons, mobile navbar and website navbar, input field, and accessibility, which is a very important topics in UI design. And then we have the dark theme. Okay, now coming back to the important things, like second thing we have is the component, like the things I showed you here, like the buttons, mobile navbar. So these are the components. So you must include buttons, checkbox, radio buttons, toggle button, input field, navbar, action bar, and all these components should have all their different states. Like for example, if you take a button, then the button should have the default state, then the hover state, then the focus state, then the disabled state, or any other state if you require that thing. Similarly with the input field, navbar, and action bar, you should have all different states included in them. Okay, then we have the icon set. Now when we are designing UI, we don't pick icons randomly. Like if you are using a plugin called Iconify, we don't do that thing in real projects. First of all, we choose a icon set. Like we have material design icons, we have remix icon, we have flat icons, and all that other stuff. We use a proper library so that all of our icon style looks the same. If they are using a stroke icon, then all of our icons will be of stroke icons. If they are using a fill icon, then all of our icons will be fill icon. If I show you example, okay, this is the material design icon kit. You can copy that thing from Figma community. Like if I show you, wait, go inside filled icon. Okay, if you just look at all the icons we have, then like if you just see, all the icons have the same style, like 10k, 1k, 1k plus. They all have same style. They all look the same in terms of styling, space, and size and guiding. Okay, so it will be very easy for you to use that thing. And again, we don't copy paste icons or anything in when we are using design system. We publish that thing to our Figma team library. I will show you that thing at the end of the video. So you have to pick icon set according to your requirements. Like material design is my favorite because it contains large variety of icons, and it has all different type of icons like filled icon and the outlined icon and the round icon or two-tone icon. You can see that they are using two tones, like two fill colors. So this is called two-tone icon, and this is a very good icon set. You can use that if you want. Okay, like next thing we have is the tabs. Tab is a component, and if you don't know about any of the component or any of the thing, you just have to Google it. Okay, next thing we have is the card elevation and depth. Now by card, what I mean is, let me show you an example. Okay, this is a card. If you just look at this, now card basically means the how you will separate your elements from the background. Like if you take this example, in this they are using different colors to separate that thing from the background. If you just look at the send button, they have a gray background on the send button and they have a white background on the screen. Like if I show you any other example, and to separate anything from the background, we mainly have three options. Either you can use a different color like I showed you in the first example, or you can use a stroke. We can have both the background and the foreground color of the same color, but we can have a stroke here. Like if I show you in this example, they have a different stroke. The background and the foreground color is same, but they are using stroke to separate the cards from the background. Okay, you can tell that this is a one section or this is one button because they are using a stroke to separate that thing from the background. Now next example, they are using all three components. Like they are using a drop shadow to separate that thing from the background. They have different background color, and they have also added a stroke to separate that thing from the background. So you can use these things in combination. And as a beginner, I will not recommend you to combine multiple effects because that will be very hard for the developer to develop. Because as a beginner, you will not work with some any advanced or experienced developer, because developers focus more on the logic part of any application, like how the application will work. They dedicate very less time to designing the UI perfectly. Like majority of the time they use the default properties. Like if you added any shadow, they will use the default shadow. There is a high possibility. And if you even told them to change that thing, there is a very less possibility because it might be your friend, or if you're just working in a very small startup. So in that they don't have very experienced developer. They don't focus on the UI part that much yet. But as a beginner, I will not recommend you to use multiple things or you make your design too much fancy. Your design should be simple as possible because there is no point in designing something which cannot be developed. Okay, so it's always a good idea to keep your design very simple and clean. Okay, now we have a model here, and behind we have a screen, and above that screen there is a overlay black color with a reduced opacity. Like this fill layer might have 70% opacity, and that opacity should be fixed throughout the app whenever you're using this overlay thing in your whole UI design. Or if you are adding up any blur effect to that overlay effect, then it should be consistent throughout the design. Okay, and we add the overlay screen whenever we are adding any new screen above that. Like in this case, they added a bottom sheet above the profile section, so they needed to separate that thing from the background, so they added a overlay screen there. Okay, next thing we have is the screen size and status and navbar. Like if I show you practically, like this is our screen. Like we design on a screen of 360 by 640 pixel when we are designing for Android or the mobile version of any website. We design on that screen, but in reality we don't have that much space to design on the screen, because if you open your phone, then we have a status bar here, and we also have a navbar, like the navigation bar here. So you only have like 556 pixel to design on the screen. If you're designing a fixed view of a screen, if it's scrollable, obviously then you have more height of the screen. but in reality we have only 556 pixels to design on the screen. And when it comes to the website, you can choose the preset from Figma. If you just press F, and okay, then we will have presets here. If you just go inside desktop, then choose this desktop version. Okay, simply click on it. So then you have to design on this screen, and I will recommend you not to use this full height, because if you just open your laptop, then we have so much space occupied by the tabs and the search bar. And if you are not in full screen mode, then we have the taskbar here in both Windows and Mac. Okay, so I will not recommend you to use the full space. I will recommend you to design for 756 pixels. That's a good height. Although you can always experiment with this height. The height is not fixed, but I will not recommend you to use the full height that Figma gives you by default. Then coming to the tablet side, if I press F again, then I have some tablet preset here. If I just go to the tab options, I will always recommend you to choose the iPhone mini 8.3 like this 744 by 1133. If I just click on it, then I have an iPad version here, okay, or the tablet version. You should always design on this thing, okay? And you have to do the same thing like what you did on the Android. You have to always add the status bar and the bottom nav bar you have, because in tablets the scenario is still the same. You're gonna use the whole space to design your UI. You have to give some space for your nav bar and the status bar, okay? Now let's look at some of the must-learn design system. You cannot ignore these design system. These are the must-learn design system. You have to read this thing all in detail. Starting with the Material Design 1.0. Although Material Design have 3 versions, and Material Design is a design system released by Google, majority of the apps you use, like 99% of the app, refer this design system to build their own design system. Like first Google release something, then they make some changes to that design system according to their needs, and they add their own touch, and they uses that thing in their design system or app or website. Except some companies like Apple, Microsoft, they use a very different approach to design. Like they use a glass effect in their design. If you just look at the whole Windows layout or any iOS layout or any other Apple product, they have this glass effect in that, and we have similar effect in the Windows also. But you have to read the material design guideline first, because majority of the time you will be designing for Android, so you should read about Android design systems in very detail. So when you will open this website, this is what it will look like, and this is the first version of the material. Like we have 3 versions of the material design system, 1, 2 and 3, and 3 is the latest one. They released that thing few years ago, and majority of the apps are using that thing now. That's called Material U, if you have heard of that thing. Okay, if you just land on this website, link is in the description, or you can type m1.material.io, and if you type m2.material.io, then you will be navigated to the second version, similarly for the third version. Okay, when you will enter on this website, this is what it will look like. Here we have an introduction, like how things work, like how they design this whole thing. Like they will tell you every single thing about every single component or property. Okay, first of all, we have the introduction, environment, material design. Let me show you like components. If I just go inside components and choose buttons, then they will tell you everything about buttons, like how they use buttons, like how many types of button they have, like the flat button, raised button, elevation button. If I just click on buttons types, then they will show me button types, like this is the floating action button, this is a raised button, this is a flat button. Okay, then they have shown some good examples of how they used this button. Okay, this is called the usage of that component. Then we have some choosing button styles and all that stuff. You can explore all these things. Then at the end, they will show you so many things, like the size of that button, like how should size and space, all that thing. And if you come to the second version of the website, and if you completed the first version of material design, this will be very easy for you to complete material design 2 and 3, because majority of the things are same. They just have updated the property. You already know the basics. Okay, but just come to the component and choose like buttons, you will be navigated to this page. And if here we have 2 things here, like the design and the implementation. Now implementation part is for the developers. You have to share this thing with your developer if you are using material design system. Okay, and you can find the material design kit on Figma community. Simply type material design, and you will find the whole file of material design system for free on Figma community, and you can use that if you want. But I will not recommend you using that. I will recommend you to build your own design system as a beginner, because that way you will learn a lot of things. Now if you just scroll down a bit, they will show you everything about that button. Like this is the container, and if you just hover it, they will show you the hover effect, like how it will actually look. This is called interactive demo. Okay, now if I scroll down a little bit, then they have shown the usage and all the other stuff. Like they have some principles, like how the button should be, like it should be identifiable, findable and clean. Okay, then we have types of button here, like this is the tertiary button, this is a secondary button, this is the primary button, this is a segment button. Okay, and they have in-depth description about all these buttons here. Okay, then we have the anatomy. Now anatomy is actually the breaking down the every single component of any component. Like this is the sub component, like icon is a component, so they are breaking down that thing. Like this is the icon, this is the label, then this is the container. Okay, then we have all this thing. You can read all that stuff. Now if you come to material design 3.0, now the biggest difference in material design is that they have increased the component size. Like you can see that button size is very big as compared to the material design 2.0 or 1.0, and they're using a dynamic theming. Now in dynamic theming, the whole app picks the color palette from your wallpaper. It will change the color of whole app. You can notice that thing in all the Google apps, they pick color from your wallpaper, and this will work only if you have Android version 13 or above that thing. But in some phones it works, they have dynamic theming enabled somehow. I don't know the technical reason behind it, they must have done something. But in majority of the case, Android 13 supports material design 3.0 or material U. So you can go and see how dynamic theming works. Now if you scroll down a little bit, you will find all the properties here. You can always explore this thing, and you should read this thing in very detail. Like this website Solo can teach you so much about UI designing. Like no course on internet or no video or no YouTube channel on internet can teach you that much. Like if you completed every single section or every single line of this website or this design system, you will learn a lot about UI design, and half of your design learning journey will be completed there. You will not be required to read different blogs to learn about UI design. You will learn a lot of things. Then you will be able to move on advanced thing and focus on learning better things, and your design learning will be very fast if you complete this whole design system. So I will highly recommend you to complete this design system. You cannot skip this. Without learning design system, it's not possible to learn UI design in a proper way. Okay, so I will recommend you go and read that thing. I'm telling you again, go read that thing in very detail. Like read every single line of this website or this design system. Okay, now let me show you how we actually use design system. Like if I come to this file, now we have this icons here. Like imagine this is my icon set, and you can see that these are the normal frames. These are not components. Now to use anything in any other design file, you first have to publish that thing. Now to publish that thing, you have to create a component out of that thing. So what I will do is I will select it and create component, then I will select another one and create component, but that will take a lots of time. So what I will do is I will undo it first. Let me undo it. Then I will select all these things. Okay, then I will go to this components option and click on this small arrow here. Okay, then I will choose create multiple components, and be very careful when you are selecting this option. Like you should not select the first or third option. That way it will combine all the elements in one single component. We don't want that. We want to create multiple components. So always choose the second option very carefully. Now once you have converted all your design elements into components, what you have to do is you have to simply click on this arrow and then choose publish to library. Okay, then it will ask me to move this file to team library. Now team library is a premium feature. You have to buy the premium plan or the pro plan. So if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you are a student and you cannot afford the Figma plan. What you have to do is you have to apply for the Figma education plan. That way Figma will provide you Figma Pro version for free. Okay, what you have to do is you have to simply search Figma education and click on the first link, and link is in the description if you are not able to find this thing, and simply click on get verified, and then you have to fill some basic form, and in few days you will be able to access Figma premium. Okay, then you have to come back to your file. Let me close it. Then in the home section, you see this option here like teams here. You have to create your team first. Like we have this option here, create team. Simply click on create team, then fill out this basic thing, then your team will be created. Okay, then come back to that file, click on publish to library, choose move to teams, then you have to select any project inside your team. Now initially there will be no projects available. So what you have to do is you simply have to click on this plus icon on the right side of your team name. Then you have to create a project. You can do that. Okay. Then you have to select any of the project you have created. Like I will choose this project and move this whole file to the team project I created. This is a personal project. I'm not sharing this thing with anyone. It's not public. It's in my Figma account. Only I will be able to access that thing unless and until I add another person to that team or I share this file with them. Now once you have moved your file to the team project, then you will see something like this. Now when you will click on publish, then it will publish all your components. And if you don't want to publish any components, let me cancel it. Then what you can do is then you have to simply select it and press Ctrl arrow Command R, and you have to rename it. You have to add an underscore or a dot to exclude that thing from the publishing library. So that way Figma will not publish that component. Okay. And then if you go again here and choose publish library, Figma is showing me that I have removed this component because I have added underscore before that thing. And even if I change anything in this component, like if I move it here, then it will show me, like if I select this component, then it will show me option to publish changes. I can either publish this particular component, only update this component, and every other thing will remain same. If I just click on publish, it will show me that this is removed and this is modified. Okay, let me cancel it. Now if you want to use this component library or your design system once you have published it in another file, what you have to do is you have to go to that file or any file you are designing on that. Then you have to go to this assets panel and click on this library icon or this book icon you see there. Okay, simply click on it. Then it will show you all the published file here. You can simply click on add. I have already added, so it's showing me to remove it. Then after that you have to come to this assets panel. You can search for anything, like what things you published there, you can simply find them here. Like I have added material design icons here. I can search that thing. Like if I search for search, like for search icon, then it will show me the search icon. But as you can see, it's not showing me the search icon because I am inside the local component. I am not inside that material design icons. So what I have to do is either I can choose all libraries or I can choose the material icons. Here I can simply click here, then it will show me the search icon here. I can simply drag it here, and I have all other type of search icon here, like this is the image search, YouTube search, or Bluetooth, and you can change the view to list view. Okay, and if you just right click and choose go to main component, then it will navigate you to that file, like that file that contains the master component. Okay, so whenever I will change anything here, like if I change this color here, if I just turn it blue and this color also blue, okay, like if I just select it and choose publish changes, like publish, then if I come back to this file, and then I have to go to this library option, or I can press Ctrl Alt O or Command Option O if you are on Mac. Then go to this update option, that it will show me the components that are updated. I can click on this update all option, then it will update the components, like the changes I made on that component, it will update that thing here also. Okay, so that's how we use components in Figma or other design system. And if you're using an external design system, you have to do the same thing with that thing. You just have to go that and click on this and choose publish library and move that thing and use that thing in your design system. Okay, and there is a website which contains some of the best design systems out there, like the big companies uses that thing. Like this is the website, like designserves.system. Here you will find all the design system, like all the famous design systems we have, like the Adobe uses Spectrum, Apple uses Human Interface Guidelines, then we have Atlassian, Dell, Google, IBM. You can simply click on any of this thing and it will take you to that web design system. Like we have all different components of that design system. You can simply click on that, and whenever you're opening any design system from this website or any other thing, what you have to do is you have to press Control or Command if you're on Mac. Then it will open that link in new tab. That thing work across Chrome. And if you're using an external mouse, you can use this wheel button to open links. That way it will also open in new tabs. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to explore different design systems and see how they have designed the same component. Obviously first you have to read the material design guidelines because that's the base, but once you have completed that design system, you have to explore different design system to build your design system. And as a beginner, you should build very small design system, because if you build a very big design system, it will be very hectic to manage for you, because to manage a design system we have proper teams. But if you are just a beginner or you are working in a very small startup, then we don't have that much big design teams, or with it we don't have specific design team to manage the design system. So build a very basic design system that will help you a lot. Okay, and this was for this video. See you in next one. Bye.